Rehearsed this. Anyway, thanks, Mike. You're a bit of a double act now. It's great to see so many familiar faces here this morning, and ladies and gentlemen, it's with great pleasure that as the President of the Property Council of Australia that we're able to take you through what we're thinking and where we're going as a council and as an industry. It's fair to say, property is really, I think, a very easy industry to get excited about, to be passionate about. The physicality of what we create, and whether it be a great development that redefines the customer experience or just a really well looked after asset that creates a fantastic experience for a customer or for a tenant. We know that we're integral to day-to-day life of just about every Australian. And in that regard, as an industry that helps not only house the economy, but to create a more prosperous economy, and that we naturally innovate, as we've heard from the panel so far, I think it is an incredibly exciting industry to be a part of. In that regard, and on the basis that we are literally touching every Australian in the country, we also have a tremendous responsibility, not only to the community itself, but to all stakeholders, to make sure that we continue to build trust with them and to deliver great outcomes that are sustainable, that are thoughtful, and make it easy for people in their day-to-day life. Livability, I think livability is about not being stuck in traffic. It's about living in a space that works for your lifestyle. It's about easy access to work, to play, to shopping experience, social experiences, being safe, and having things that we can deliver scalably, and when you do it that way, actually most cost effectively in terms of that livability, whether it be more mature plantings or it would be inspired space by great architects, or just things that are built really well. To Sir Rob Parker's point, over-engineering to make sure things stand the test of time. In that regard, we're also a major part of just about every Australian savings scheme through their super, and we're a big part of the Australian economy. Statistics really, as we've heard so far in terms of the big launch, that are quite remarkable in their extent. The Property Council decided to commission a global consulting firm, AEC Group, to analyse the contribution that the industry makes, to factually be able to present what it is that we feel so passionate about and what it is that we do. And that's really what identified the numbers that you've been reading on the papers and parts of the programs. The fact that we employ 1.1 million Australians, more than mining and manufacturing put together. Second largest employer in the country after healthcare. In that regard, 1 in 4 Australians, either directly or indirectly, derives their wage or their earnings from real estate. We contribute $182 billion to GDP of this country, and 11.5% of the entire economy is dependent upon real estate or property. In terms of people's savings, 17.6 million Australians have got an exposure to real estate through their superannuation schemes. And obviously that's a growing pool with compulsory savings. And we provide more support to communities by contributing $72 billion in taxes across the 3 levels of government and some 16% of all government revenue. Pretty amazing when you think about it. Except not that many people actually know of our proud story. When we surveyed the public, we found that property very rarely was acknowledged as a key contributor to the economy or people's way of life. And when you tell people that we employ 1.1 million people, more than mining or manufacturing combined, actually look at you in disbelief and surprise. What this highlighted to the board, and certainly to Ken as the CEO and to the PCA more broadly, is that we had a great story to tell and we've got to get out and tell it. Particularly given the growth in the economy obviously has slowed through the transition away from the mining expansion. The new norm is for economic growth of around 2%. So it's very clear that the country needs growing parts of the economy, and real estate certainly is one of the fastest growing. And more importantly, done right, it's sustainable. It empowers industries like tourism, obviously completely renewable and dependent upon really effectively export. Food manufacturing, the GDP we've heard about in cities that will continue to grow. And more importantly, creating a happy, innovative and environment where people really want to push the envelope, where intellectual property is king, where the environment is considered, and where we can move forward in that truly sustainable and symbiotic way. So in that regard, it's very important that policymakers listen to this industry, an industry that has shown that innovation that I talked about before, and where there is a tremendous opportunity to attract more young people into the industry, and we need that given the growth, and more diversity in our employee base. And for that, the industry has to be known. If we're a surprise to people, then we're not going to be someone's first thought when they're coming out of school where they want to carve a brilliant career. And that's a big problem. It's a very big problem, because if you can't crack that nut, then all we have is ongoing inflation in wages. We're not going to get the kind of innovation and envelope pushing that I'm talking about. And we'll stagnate too, like the rest of the economy, which would be a disaster. And that's why the national campaign's been launched today. We want to all get out there and tell the story. And one thing I would say, and Ken will talk about this more, but please, for anyone that's got assets, think about taking the campaign to your customers and to your stakeholders. Proudly put the collateral up wherever you can and talk to your customers and stakeholders passionately about our industry and about the contribution that you and your company makes. Be proud of that. Don't hide your light under a bushel. I think we've done that for too long, quite frankly, when you think about how other industries with a far lesser story to tell have gone about it in a very different way. So anyway, that stops as of today. Let property grow the economy. It's a simple message, but it's absolutely right for the times. And as we heard from Deputy Premier Jackie Trad last night, it's a story that both politicians and the community will embrace. And that's because we are a solution to a lot of these challenges. We want to make Australia prosperous. We're genuine in that intent. We want to make it sustainable. We want to create policies that connect people to place, to their jobs, to their lifestyles. We want to play a role in making the taxation system fairer. Property bears the brunt of some of the most inefficient taxes in the country that are very distorting in their economic outcome. And we want to make cities more productive and more sustainable, as you've heard through the morning. Planning reform, connectedness around infrastructure, more innovative funding for infrastructure, a long-term vision, true housing affordability. Ladies and gentlemen, let property grow the economy. It's a message that our political leaders are ready to hear. It's a message the community will respond to. And in that regard, we couldn't be more excited for the support that you've shown by coming here over this day and a half, and we really look forward to the future together. Thank you. I'll now hand over to Ken.
Thank you, Mark. As Mark said, this campaign is a first for the Property Council. A central plank in our strategy is to be able to deliver and fund these campaigns on vital issues over time. And there is no more important issue than the proud contribution that this industry makes to our nation. This campaign is aimed fairly and squarely at two audiences. The first is political decision makers. The second is you, our members. It features advertising across national and major metropolitan newspapers, as you've seen today. It's supported by an extensive digital campaign, and it's all backed by a direct campaign aimed at the politicians themselves. You can see some of the collateral on the screen, and you've seen it outside and in your information packs. Profiles of the contribution the industry makes to the nation and to every state and territory. We've also produced a customised profile for every single federal and state electorate in the country. every single electorate. So whenever the Property Council meets with a minister or an MP, and we do that every single day, we have a simple message to tell them. We can tell them exactly how many jobs, how much of a contribution to economic growth this industry provides in their electorate. So, for example, last night with the Deputy Premier, Mark was able to lean over to Jackie Trad and tell her that in her own electorate, the industry employs 6,268 people. That's a lot of voters, a lot of voters. This material is also your resource. So every time you or your executive team meets with a minister or an MP, every time you invite a local MP to open a new project, every time they do a walkthrough of one of your shopping centres, here are some messages that you can provide to them. All this is available on our website for you to access, along with social media details and other content to download and share with your staff and with your stakeholders. We encourage you to get involved. Of course, this is just one of the things that the Property Council is doing. Over the last year, we've made the conscious decision to stand up and take a leadership role on diversity. Most visibly, we've launched the Property Male Champions of Change, a leadership group for 18 CEOs and one chair of our most powerful, most largest property companies. But you also see a very strong commitment across a broad range of activities from the Property Council, including the people that we showcase at events and on stages like the ones today. Tax has been the Property Council's highest advocacy priority. We've been taking a leadership position on national tax reform, investing in the research, speaking with policymakers across the country, and playing a vocal role in the public debate on these issues. And while the national tax reform discussion continues, our state advocacy is also delivering results. In South Australia, we secured a commitment to completely abolish commercial stamp duty over just 3 years. Gone for all time in just 3 years. In Victoria, we ensured that the Australian-based development companies were not caught in the foreign stamp duty and land tax surcharges announced in the last budget there. And just last week, the federal government has confirmed a major simplification to the foreign investment requirements, exempting most of you from the costs and expense of FIRB processes. We're also making an impact elsewhere. In New South Wales, the government has adopted our model for a new Greater Sydney Commission. We've convinced the new Queensland government to keep planning reform on the table. In the West, we're leading the debate on how Western Australia can transition from a mining-focused economy to a property-focused economy, and the special role of infrastructure in making that happen. And of course, the change in federal leadership has seen a welcome new focus on cities, and we're working very hard to help shape that debate. Ladies and gentlemen, the Property Council brings together the industry to learn, to be challenged and to connect. The Property Congress is just one of many events and conferences and professional development courses that we run across the country in every single year. But it is the biggest. I'd like to give some particular thanks to the people who have helped make it happen. To all our speakers and moderators, to all our sponsors led by our principal partner Yardi, to our very many loyal Congress champions, to our Congress committee, ably led by John Elvey, and lastly, but certainly not leastly, our fantastic Property Council staff. Indeed, thank you for all your support in helping to make this not just the biggest Congress ever, but a fantastic event. I hope you enjoy it. I look forward to sharing that enjoyment with you. Thank you.